Hello everyone. Today I will make one video about a dynamic descriptive programming. So I will demonstrate dynamic descriptive programming in this video. So if you do not know me, I am MD Shahajada Imran. That is my name. So in this video I will demonstrate dynamic descriptive programming. And so what is a dynamic descriptive programming? There are two conditions that should match in the dynamic descriptive programming. One condition is we cannot use object repositories, either local or shared. We cannot use object repositories. So I show one script. This is one script I just opened that I previously created. So I will check the object repositories. So how I will check? I will click on resources, I will click on object repositories, and the local object repository will open up. So here I can see no objects are stored in the local object repository. Now I will check shared object repository. So I will click on resources, I will click on associate repositories, and I can also see no shared object repository associated with this test. So this script has no shared object repository, no local object repository. Now there is another condition, that is must use description utility object. So there are many utility objects. Out of those, we must use description utility object to develop the automation script. I show those utility objects. I will be opening previously executed run result viewers, HP run results viewer, so that I can show you what are the utility objects available on this particular UFT version 12.53. To claim one automation script that we have developed in dynamic descriptive programming, there are very simple conditions: no object repositories and use description utility object. Very simple, no object repositories and using a description utility object. So I will be showing the description utility object. This is the help section of the Unified Functional Testing UFT. So if I go object model reference, I click here. The list showed up here. I will be scrolling down and I will choose utility object. I click here, and there are many utility objects: script object, data table object, description object, .NET factory object. There are so many utility objects. Each object has methods and properties, or at least one method. So if, let's say, data table object, this is one utility object, it has many methods and properties. I click here. I click here and see there are many methods and properties. See, methods and properties. There are many methods and properties. The same way, if I click description object, I click here description object. So it has one method, that is create. See, in the list there is only one method, create. So we must use this method, and we can use other methods, other utility objects. We can use everything else except object repository. So this is the object description object that we have to use, and the method we have to use is create. I have So that is the second condition, must use description utility object. This is the description utility object. We must use this object, and this object has only one method, the create method, and I have written the formula in detail. This is the formula. The formula is set the object name equal sign description dot create, and then the object name first bracket double quote the property name 1 double quote in first bracket in dot value equal to double quote and the value of this property. This is the property name. This property has a value. The value will be here. If I scroll down here, I see this is the syntax, set and then the object name equal to description dot create. Object name could be any name that we give. This is any name. We can give your name. Here the object name could be any name, could be my name, IMRAN, Imran, could be my name, or could be your name, whatever name, it could be your name, so or could be any other name. So this is the formula, set object name equals sign description dot create, and then object name first bracket double quote property name double quote in first bracket in dot value equal to double quote then the value of this particular property double quote in. This is for first property, and this is for the second property. And until property n, there could have multiple properties that we want to use to create this particular object using description.create option. So that is the formula. So I have said what is dynamic descriptive programming. Very, very simple. No object repository, and must use one particular utility object. It's not like we only use this utility object. There are so many utility objects. We can use all of those or some of those, but we must use this one, description utility object. So that's the two conditions to claim one descriptive programming that is developed in dynamic descriptive programming. Now I will be showing hands-on, and I will give one example. So since I explained what is dynamic descriptive programming, very simple, no object repository and must use description utility object. Now I open one Windows application or client application. This is a sample application given by UFT. So I just launched it and I will be logging. Is John, John, HP. So I log into this page. So in this client application or Windows application, this page open. What I want to do, I want to write a code using dynamic descriptive programming, and that code will find out how many drop-down lists in this page. Currently there are 4. 1, this is a drop-down list. This is another drop-down list. This is another drop-down list. This is another drop-down list. These are drop-down lists. This is an edit field. This is a button. This is an image. This is another image. This is simply text. So what I want to do, I want to write code using dynamic descriptive programming that will find out how many drop-down lists are in this particular window or in this particular page. So first I want to see the properties and their values, because in the formula, what we see in the formula that we need properties, property names and the values corresponding. So I want to see this object's property names and values. So I use object spine and put culture here. Now you can see in the hierarchy there are 3 levels. level 1, level 2, level 3. In the level 3 I can see that is combo box, and I need three objects. For each level I need one object, and the object I will be creating using this formula. So for the first object, what is the name of the object? WPF window, and the class name is WPF window. So here I use set based on the formula. Formula has the set, so I used set. And the object name could be anything. The object name could be anything. So I give the object name WPF window, the entire name, and I added one extra W before. It could be my name also, Imran, or your name, or some other name. It could be anything. I just give this name, and then equal sign and description dot create, based on the equal sign, and then description dot create. In the second line, object name, this name and this name same, so object name. Here is the object name, first bracket double quote, and then the class name, not the class name, property name. This is a list of properties. All of these are properties. This is one property, this is another property, this is another property, this is another property. The first property's name is class name, but in the code we cannot use this name. We must use the nickname. The nickname is MiClass. So I used the nickname MiClass, actually meant class name, and the class name is the first property in the properties list. And this property has corresponding values. This is the value. The value will go here in double quote. Based on the formula, this is the property name, first property's name, and this is the value in double quote. And then the first object has been created. I didn't use additional property or values for the first one, for the first level. This object has been created based on the formula, this two line, based on this two line. And then now, since there are three objects in the hierarchy, this is one object, and then this is second one. Second one is WPF tab strip. WPF tab strip. So for that, use the same formula set. I just give a name. I use the entire name and added one W before. So this is the name, equal sign description dot create, and the same name appears here, first bracket double quote, and the first property's name in the property list. This is the first property. First property's name is class name, but we cannot use class name. We must use the nickname, and the nickname is MiClass, so I used MiClass here. Dot value, and the value, this is the value, WPF tab strip, WPF tab strip. So this is this two line also. This is the second object. This two line also created based on this two line. Now the third one. If I go 1, 2, 3, this is the third one, WPF combo box. So I also have to create one object for this one. Since there are three objects in the hierarchy, I have to use three objects. The third object, based on the formula, I use set and I give a name. I just use the entire name and added one W before. equal sign description dot create, and in the second line use the same name here, the same name from here to here, first bracket double quote, and the property name. This is the property list. There are so many properties. The first property name is class name, and I cannot use class name directly, so I have to use the nickname, and the nickname is MiClass, so I use the MiClass here. Dot value equal to the value of the property name. So this property is value is this one, WPF combo box. WPF combo box. So I copied the name from here and pasted here. And then I used another property, because in this formula I used these 3 lines. Here there are 3 lines. These 3 lines are from these 3 lines. Set object name equal to description dot create, and then first property is name and value, and then another property is name and value. What was the other property? So there are so many properties. I have used another property. If I go down, I can see this one, WPF type name. WPF type name. I copied this name from here, pasted here, and then clicked here. I copied this name from here and pasted here. So these 3 lines has been created based on this 3 line, based on this formula. Now that I have created 3 objects, this is one object, this is another object, this is another object. Now I will be creating a child object. Child object is a list, is another object that creates a list of objects. So definition is child object is an object that creates a list of another object. Here is the child object. So on this particular scenario, based on this, the child object will look like this. It will have 1, 2, 3, 4 indexes. The first index number is 0. So how we create the child object? Use set method and use this. I can give any name. I just give this name, and then equal sign, and this is the hierarchy. From the hierarchy, if I go hierarchy, if I see, this is the hierarchy. This is the 3 levels. The first level, this is the object name. It came up here, and this object name goes here. And then second one, this name came here, and then this comes from here. This is the second. And then child object, the third one, came here, child objects, and then this is the name came from here. Now what this line will do, this line will create an object. The object will look like this. That will have 1, 2, 3, 4 objects. Now if I run it, it will say in the message box that the count is 4. If I run it, I just ran it. I clicked on the run. So in the message box I can see the count is 4. See the count, it showed 4. Okay. Now I do not know what are those 4. So I want to highlight all those 4 lists. The first objective is to find out how many drop-down lists on this particular page that I found it. There are 4, and I want to highlight those to see what are those. So for highlighting, I will be using a for loop. The for loop will iterate count -1. So how that object look like, the child object? The object look like this. It starts with the index number 0, 1, 2, 3. There are 4 objects, 4 drop-down lists. The first element will hold the first drop-down list, second element will hold the second drop-down list, but the first element's index number is 0. Therefore, I have to write from here 0 to 3. Count this. This is holding the value. This variable is holding the value 4. So 4 minus 1 equals to 3. So 0 to 3. When the for loop iterates, the for loop will iterate 4 times from 0 to 3. From 0 to 3. From 0 to 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 times. The for loop will iterate. And I want to highlight all the objects. So this one I will be copying. I paste here. First bracket I, first bracket n, dot highlight. Highlight. Now if I run it, it will highlight those 4 drop-down lists. So I will be running it. So it says 4. Now I click on OK manually. Now it's highlighting first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. It highlighted all 4s. So since I have seen, I delete those 4 lines because I have seen those 4 drop down lists. Now what I want to do is I have created one function. This is one function previously. This function will select a value from the drop-down list. So this drop-down list has many values. So I want to select one value. So this is the function that can be used 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. This function will be reused 4 times to select a value from 4 different drop-down lists. This is one drop-down list, this is another drop-down list, this is another drop-down list, and this is another drop-down list. So this function, this is a reusable function. This function will be reused 4 times to select a value from 4 different drop-down lists. So how I also, these things I also deleted these things. So now if I run it, I uncomment this one, and if I run it, it will select. I uncomment all those 4 lines, because this function, this is the function name. I call this function 4 times. This is one time I call, this is another time I call, this is another time I called, this is another time I call. I call this particular function. This is the function name. I call this function by the name, and these are the input arguments this function takes. So if I run it, I will see, it will select I run it, it will select 4 different values from the 4 different drop down lists. It selected Paris from the first one, it selected Zurich from the second one, it selected first from the third one, and selected 2 from the fourth one. So this goes on the hands-on explanation on a particular a script which is developed in dynamic descriptive programming. So I will be explaining this function in a short. This is the function. That function starts here, ends here, and also this is the child object that I have created, and I stored the count of the elements, which is 4 based on this particular scenario, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this count variable is holding the value 4, and then for loop iterates from 0 to 4 minus 1, 3, 4 times total, and every time this for loop iterates, it will check the dev name properties value, and then the value I have given here, Paris. If dev name's properties value, whatever I have given during calling, matches, then it will highlight and select that value, and then exit from the for loop. Else it will go to the second iteration and third iteration and fourth iteration. So that's the topic of this video. In this video, the topic was explaining what is dynamic descriptive programming and hands-on example. So I have given one hands-on example of one dynamic descriptive programming. Dynamic descriptive programming is very, very easy. What 2 things needs to consider: do not use object repository and must use description utility object, and then continue with the scripting. Okay, so I also mark this one as green, saying that I have explained hands-on. Thank you guys for watching.